I'm Kurt Achin. I used to be the VOA guy in town. I'm a freelance journalist who has an interest in North Korea and in creative ways of engaging activists in North Korea. That's about it.
Hi, I'm Sokeel Park Sokeel. I work for an organization called Liberty in North Korea, and we work with North Korean refugees, and we also work with the media to try and change the way that people see North Korea. So this film is actually really interesting for me.
Hi, I'm Nemo Kim. I'm the Korea correspondent of Variety, and I also write for Sight and Sound, the British film journal. And I can't promise that I'll be able to answer all of your questions about the interview, but I'll do my best. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Peter Jung, the founder of the Justice for North Korea. We established in 2007, and our goal is improvement of North Korean human rights in North Korea. And the second is the rescue North Korean people and defectors through the third Asian countries. Actually, last Christmas we fundraised the money, this kind of Itaewon perp. So last week we just rescued the one defector. So thank you so much.
네, 안녕하세요. 저는 이한별이고요. 17살에 북한에서 왔습니다. 지금 현재는 저스티스 포 노스 코리아에서 행정실장으로 일하고 있습니다. 만나서 반갑습니다.
I'm supposed to be interpreting what she says. My name is Lee Han-byeol. I escaped from North Korea when I was 17, and I'm now working for the, what was the name of the group again? I'm sorry. Justice for North Korea. Thank you, and it's nice to see you all.
Yes, thank you very much. First off, one of the great things about doing an event like this is being able to watch a film like this with other people. I think if you watch this alone on a computer or just with a handful of people versus seeing it with a large group like this, it's a big difference. Just by a show of hands, who just saw the movie for the first time tonight? So quite a few. Now, everyone here has hopefully seen it now at least once, so let's get into a few things. This movie has been panned by some people. It's also been celebrated by others. One critic described it as Harold and Kumar Go to North Korea or Bill and Ted's Excellent North Korean Adventure, while other people have talked about, well, maybe it's not a work of masterpiece. It is important nonetheless. So I guess first off, what are your reactions after seeing this film either for the first time or for a second or third time? What do you think about it? And I'll leave that as general as you want to make it.
I'd like to start from that side. I think the most important voice in the room is the North Korean and what she thought of the movie.
네, 먼저 네, 이쪽으로 이렇게 갈 거예요.
사실 영화를 보면서 느낀 게 이 영화가 되게 코믹했다는 걸 느꼈는데요. 북한에는 코믹 영화가 사실 없습니다. 매우 진지하고 그 진지함은 북한의 김부자 체제를 선전하는 그런 영화들 뿐이었어요. 그리고 김부자들을 다 이렇게 찬양하도록 만드는 그들을 되게 그들을 되게 이렇게 어떻게 한다고 할까요? 되게 우상화하는 그런 영화만 있는데 여기서 이런 영화를 보면서 되게 저렇게 코믹한 영화에 김정은이가 그렇게 되게 한심하게 나왔다는 게 북한 주민들을 아주 놀랍게 할 거라는 그런 생각을 했고요. 그리고 참 소니 제작사에 저는 감사함을 느꼈어요. 왜냐하면 아직 그 어느 나라도 김정은 테러에 대해서 시도해보지 않았는데 이런 시도를 했다는 것은 너무 고맙고 앞으로도 또 많은 이런 북한 관련된 영화들을 북한 주민들의 고통이나 또는 김정은 관련된 영화들을 다른 나라들에서도 더 많이 만들어준다면 참 감사할 것 같습니다. Thank you very much.
She first thought that the film was really funny, and given that most of the films produced in North Korea are very serious and profound, that it was impressive that Sony Production tried for the first time to make a comedy film out of the figure Kim Jong-un, who's supposed to be a serious figure in North Korea, and then she would greatly appreciate if any other countries can also produce a comedy or any type of films with Kim Jong-un in it. Yeah, that would be a nice... for North Korean residents. I'm sorry, I'm not remembering everything that she said, so yeah, that's roughly what she said. Thank you.
실제로 이 영화의 그 흥행은 소니 픽처스사가 만들었지만 실제로 이제 김정은이 이 영화의 흥행을 도와줬다라고 이제 생각을 합니다. 정말 이 영화를 통해서 첫 번째로 느꼈던 게 뭐냐면 북한 주민들은 실제 김일성이나 김정일의 그 뉴스페이퍼 사진 그 얼굴 위에 깔고 앉아만 있어도 정말 그 체포되어서 정치범죄형도로 가게 됩니다. 그런데 여기에서 정말 그 김정은의 실체, 타락하고 이런 정말 우상화하는 이런 것들이 밝혀짐에 따라서 이제 북한 주민들도 그 북한의 3대 세습에 대한 실체를 알 수 있을 것이다라는 생각을 하고요. 실제로 지금 이미 그 북한 내부 북중 국경적으로 저희와 같이 일을 하는 단체들이 DVD와 또 USB에 담아서 이 영화를 보급을 시작을 했습니다. 그래서 상당히 이제 저희들이 이제 북한 안에 어떠한 변화가 일어날 것인지 지금 주시를 하고 있는데, 마지막으로 전 세계가 이 북한 인권에 대해서 관심을 갖게 됐다는 거고요. 참고로 말하면 저희 저스티스 포 노스 코리아하고 8개의 단체가 지난주 크리스마스 때 UN 총회, UN 카운슬 그 이번에 북한 인권 결의안 통과를 축하하는 그 광고를 뉴욕 맨하탄에다가 실었어요. 일주일 동안. 그런데 우리 돈이 없어서 그걸 겨우 했는데 이번에 이 인터뷰 통해서 전 세계로 북한에 대한 이 광고가 나가게 돼서 저희들은 굉장히 감사하게 생각하고 있습니다.
Well, the first thing that he said was that he thinks that it was not just a film, but Kim Jong-un himself pretty much contributed for the film to be well known and popular. And one of the other organizations that he works with celebrated the Security Council, Security Council for passing the UN's resolution, and they are now keeping their eyes open to the film being distributed in North Korea and how North Koreans would react to it.
I guess when, as the only so-called film professional on the panel, I guess when you watch a film, you simply put, you can have two standards, whether the film in question has cinematic quality, and you can also look at the actual significance of the release of the film or the screening of the film, as was the case with the whole Diving Bell documentary. I have mixed feelings about it as a Kyopo, overseas Korean, about this film. But having listened to you two's reactions to this film, I think it's very significant in that North Korea and the whole North Korean topic, which has usually been portrayed as something very tragic, for something like that to be portrayed in this comedic light is very meaningful. And I'm just wondering when it would be actually released in South Korea. But there are a lot of like smaller issues for me. Maybe Sokeel will agree with me on this, about the whole representations in the film of Asians and the parody aspects of politicians and so on. But I would say that my reaction on the second viewing of the film is more positive than it was when I saw it for the first time a few days ago.
So basically, the film, if it wasn't anything to do with North Korea, I don't think I would have found it that interesting, to be honest. I don't think that I'm necessarily the target audience for Seth Rogen and for the producers and so on. But it was actually, I think, interesting because it was about North Korea, and that's what I work on. So, in terms of its comedic value and like that kind of stuff, the plot, the storyline, not that bothered. But I'm not a film critic. I'm very far away from the arts and that kind of stuff. I thought that it's interesting because there's so much commentary on this film before actually almost anybody saw it, right? And it was dismissed very quickly by journalists that normally cover politics or general news, or academics, or maybe even activists and so on. But having seen the film, I think that there's a little bit more to it than just toilet jokes and Kim Jong-un's head being blown up, which was basically all we knew about it beforehand, right? Before anybody actually saw it. So I think that some of the interesting things that are in there is that one of the main themes is the power of narrative, right? The film itself is about the power of narrative. In the end, it's these two guys that are just using this mass appeal stuff, and then they try and turn it into some kind of greater good, along with this, North Korean female character. And that does reflect a certain reality in North Korea as well. The emphasis on honor of the supreme leader, like the supreme dignity, as they call it, humiliating that honor, showing that he's just a real person. All of those things are actually quite important themes when it comes to North Korea. And in amongst the, what can I call it, like penis and toilet jokes, right? There was some comments and some references to that. So some things to discuss. And I think that the question of a lot of points in there, basically agree, but there's still this feeling of like it could have been so much better, right? Like if they're going to make a film about North Korea, there's certain elements, and I think that overall, maybe this is a different question, overall it's probably going to be a positive, but I think that actually they could have done better research. I think that there's elements in there which are just obviously incorrect. There's so much that could have been better if they had like a subject specialist on set or advising the film. It could have been a little bit more accurate and not had so many kind of missed shots, if you like. So, is more than just like a very simple, lad humor film. There's a little bit more to it, but it definitely could have been better. However, at the same time, we can't necessarily expect Seth Rogen to be, Václav Havel or Gandhi or Andrei Lankov or like anything else. Like he's Seth Rogen, he's going to do his Seth Rogen thing, and then it's up to the next people with the next film to maybe take it a step further.
Just coming back to Sokeel's point about the lack of research in the film, I made a little note about some of I'm no expert in North Korean issues, by the way, but even I could spot many different points. For example, Kim Jong-un spent more than half of his formative years in Europe at several international schools in Switzerland and in Croatia, which means he probably speaks better English than me. He comes across as not really speaking very good English. I interviewed, when I was just involved in general news journalism, I interviewed a few ex-North Korean high-ranking government officials. Their English was better than mine. Not many characters, North Korean characters, speak English very well. And I understand that, even in this day and age, Asian people tend to be the object of comedy, much of it being the fact that, we're not really supposed to speak good English. But I felt that was really kind of old and very boring. Also, the fact that Kim Jong-un is constantly being called Kimmy. Kim is his surname. Last name. So that's a very simple error in research. Swear words. When swear words were spoken, they were very South Korean and very modern, like high school kind of South Korean high school swear words, like, can I say this? Instead of 강나새끼, they would say shipseki, I heard a couple of times. Those are swear words used by high school South Koreans, I think. But so a lot of these simple errors that even I was able to spot, and I'm sure like North Korean experts would be able to spot many more. So I disagree with Kurt's point that the film was well researched.
We have a question here up front. We'll get to that here in a moment. I want to talk about what you mentioned, Kurt. What would North Koreans think about this film? Well, Ms. Lee, what do you think someone from North Korea might think of this film? Or what would your best guess be as someone who spends a lot of time yourself in North Korea?
솔직히 북한 사회에서는 김정은 테러라는 거를 생각을 못하는데 그 영화를 보면서 김정은 테러라는 거에 대해서도 생각할 수 있고 김정은이 죽으면 이런 생각을 상상해 볼 수 있다는 거에 대해서 되게 북한 주민들에게 좋은 영향을 끼칠 것 같다고 생각합니다.
She never, given that North Koreans cannot even think of Kim Jong-un committing terror, that she thinks that it's going to give positive light to those, to have, like, give them a chance to think about what can possibly happen after Kim Jong-un's death and further on.
Real quick, did anyone else have, their own guess of what people might think about this?
Yeah, sure.
그 영화에서 한 가지 이제 다음 영화를 만든다면 꼭 수정을 해야 될 부분이 있다고 느꼈습니다. 이게 뭐냐면 실제로 지금 현재 그 외부에서 북한으로 들어가는 사람들에게 거짓말 상정은 보여주지 않습니다. 지금 거짓말 상정, 페이크 스토어 상정을 보여줬는데 그걸 지금 북한 안에 들어도 주민들 이야기 실제로 저희들이 들었어요. 최근에. 근데 그 영화를 보고 그런 영화에서 그 거짓말을 하고 있는 북한이 하고 너무 가장스럽게 영화를 만드는 것 자체는 역효과가 있다.
So there was a fake grocery store in the film, and he thinks that if the North Korean movie is to be produced after this, then that needs to be revised because it was witnessed by the North Korean living in North Korea right now that he or she witnessed that there is no such thing as fake grocery stores. And if there's the next movie regarding North Korea to be produced, then that needs to be revised.
But as a film person, even though I have mixed feelings about it, I have to come to its defense in that this is a comedy and it's not really meant to portray North Korea in a very realistic light. It's not a documentary, so I think you get my point.
Yeah, obviously they're making it for an American audience, right? So that's their prerogative. But if we're talking about the fact that it probably is going to get into the country, I think that's a very interesting question. How people inside are likely to interpret it. One thing to note is that it's going to be very different depending on who the viewer is in North Korea. Like, how much foreign media have they seen already? Are they Pyongyang elite? Are they in the border area? Are they in the city? Are they rural? What age are they? All of these things, just like for us, the way you interpret a film or engage with a film is going to depend on your background. In North Korea, maybe even more so, because if you've already watched a lot of Hollywood movies, then maybe you get a little bit of a leg up and you can understand things in a slightly higher way. Again, if you're already in the Pyongyang elite, then you probably have a lot of immunity to watching these kind of things. You don't really get caught, you don't really get punished. You can always get yourself out of that kind of trouble. I imagine that this film will get in. If it was me doing it, then I would try and get into mid-level elites in Pyongyang, and I think that it may actually circulate fairly quickly just because it's so interesting and it's this Hollywood movie that's about Kim Jong-un that's interesting for people. It's just like South Koreans would be interested if there was a film, American film about the assassination of the South Korean president. Like that would cause a lot of interest, and people would just be curious and try and watch it just for that fact. I think that there's like two sides to how people may interpret it. Then, given all that I just said, it's going to depend on the viewer. But in general, some of the things North Koreans might actually be angry about, because it is a kind of a bad portrayal of their country, like just inaccurate portrayal of their country, right? Mr. Jung mentioned the fake stores. Like that was an easy miss that the filmmakers made. Like they could have had something that was like a real falsehood that's really exists in North Korean propaganda, but they went for this kind of very visual, like, oh, there's clay food that's not real. A North Korean person's going to watch that and be like, oh, this is the Americans lying about our country, right? That would be a normal reaction. So there's some things like that. Also, the fact that the CIA is trying to kill Kim Jong-un and that kind of stuff, it ironically plays into some of the Pyongyang narrative that they themselves say. You can even say the fact that these two are like examples of so James Franco and Seth Rogen's characters are examples of American idiots that like partying it up, taking drugs, drinking, having like casual sex and all this kind of stuff, is a version of capitalism which the Pyongyang propaganda apparatus puts out there. On the flip side, it is going to stir thoughts when you see things like this about Kim Jong-un that has like the corruption aspect. He's cavorting with these semi or fully naked ladies. He's a corrupt kid basically in the movie, and he's not a one-dimensional character, but he ends up nobody's on his side at the end of the film, right? He starts off a little bit complex, but then you see that he's kind of like you don't actually want to be his friend. So there's certain themes that may actually provoke interesting thoughts that might actually help wake people up out of some problems inside North Korea.
At this point in time, I just want to read you like 3 lines from the Variety review of the interview written by Scott Founders, our chief film critic. These are the first 3 lines. North Korea can rest easy. America comes off looking at least as bad as the DPRK in the interview, an alleged satire that's about as funny as a communist food shortage and just as protracted. So this is the view of a very influential film critic in America, but despite his slashing to pieces of this film, it is certainly his highest grossing online release ever. I think it's made $15 million so far, as of a week ago.
Kurt, did you have a point there? Or?
Just very quickly, I'm going to briefly defend the fake grocery store. I think that, you needed a very quick visual facade to sort of be a metaphor for all of the North Korean facades. So you have a fat kid with a lollipop standing in front of a fake grocery store, and that gets it across. And then the other sort of point, if you
watch the film and can change and really think what's happening and what the outside thinks about North Korea, and if the North Korean regime punishes those residents for watching the movie, then that itself proves how North Korean human rights issue is how serious that is. So as long as the organizations are not like putting this all out and then like saying we are sending the police to North Korea and keep it quiet, then as long as it's kept quiet, then she's supporting it.
I think we have another question.
I just tend to agree. Journalists that used to work in Korea for 3.5 years and left and went back to the US in 2010. But I can tell you that the past week before the application. But the past week, up until the release of the movie, the eventual release of the movie, I've never seen North Korea being mentioned so, in becoming the top news so quickly ever. All those previous threads and tags, those are the key aspect to that kind of news flow, whereas this time everything was so unexpected. Up until the Obama press intervention, that I cannot imagine the press reading. So I do agree that this is really significant. The first fact that, as Kurt said, Sony actually gave the green light to a movie like this subject that's still very, very esoteric to most Americans. That the movie was not crippled by an obligation to be a documentary. It was a gross outcome until the end, meaning that it is still an authentic, real comedy. I think those are really important things. And we're not trying to be the obligatory Oscar-winning humanitarian top movie. It was actually a pretty big burden to discharge.
It was really interesting because some of the comments that I've read about the film, some of the articles from so-called reputable US media outlets refer to the footage from real documentary at the beginning of the film. And I don't think it was from any real documentary, right? Yeah, that's not from a real documentary, but that kind of that showed me how, should I say this word, ignorant, maybe, North Americans are maybe about North Korea or maybe the outside world. So that shocked me a lot. I think I read it in Slate.
It's really interesting. I think a lot of these things that are being perceived as slights or being perceived as, ridiculous or bad, I think some of them are probably tongue-in-cheek. They need quickly accessible memes, and they mix and match certain things. The little girl singing, we hope they drown in their blood and feces and stuff in front of this massive crowd. Where? Oh, in the song, Yeah, okay. Look, I think the point that it was not meant to be a documentary meant that they had a certain license with these things. They have to get things across.
Legit North American journalists thought that footage was actually from an existing documentary, which I found really
that's very silly of them, yeah. But it's a movie. They have to strengthen the intensity of their images.
They didn't know that it was actually made up, so that was really. And just wanted to add that I know that being in South Korea, we tend to think that we live in a very big country, but just wanted to tell you a little bit about a film that got restricted viewing rating. It was made 4 years ago. The Korean title is 자가당착. It's by two brothers, Kim Sun, Kim Guk, and it's a puppet show movie. It's a movie featuring puppets of South Korean politicians, and it got restricted viewing, which means that it will most likely never get shown in South Korea because we do not have theaters devoted to movies that get restricted viewing ratings. And the film is kind of rotting away in storage 4 years after it was shown, and I saw it, and it's much less, what should I say, it's not as strong as this film in terms of attacking politicians. So the situation in South Korea is not so different.
We do have another question.
So I have a question to a lady from North Korea. There are two things that I'm wondering. I'm actually a South Korean citizen, have a U.S. cultural background. My reaction to this movie was when I saw it initially. We all people who are not from North Korea, are sort of has a stereotype of Kim Jong-un, and we like I actually thought that when I see this movie, I would convince that I would be convinced that Kim Jong-un is like the worst person in the world, but actually it maybe sounds a little crazy, but it sort of had an effect that at first when I saw it, I was like, this is Kim Jong-un's horrible, and he was a mystery. But now that I see it, I feel like he's funny, basically in the movie he's funny. He's just like he cries, and he's like a 20-something-year-old, like just like me, So I sort of sympathize with him a little bit, like that sort of had that effect to this movie. And I was wondering if North Koreans sees it, like would they? And there are the people who, or I guess brainwashed, that Kim Jong-un is the god. But like if they see it, would they have the same sort of what kind of effect what would they think basically? Like would they think the similar way? Do they sympathize with him a bit, or would it be like, oh, he's really bad? Like I wonder.
아까도 저쪽에서 말씀하신 것 같은데 정말 영화를 보고 느끼는 사람은 다 느끼는 게 다르다고 생각해요. 그래서 어떤 사람들은 김정은이를 싫어하는 사람도 분명히 있어요. 일반 주민들은 먹고 사는데 제가 북한에서 살 때는 지금도 그렇지만 다음 끼를 뭘 먹고 살지를 고민했어요. 북한이 1995년 이후부터 되게 경제 상황이 안 좋았기 때문에 먹고 사는 게 너무 힘든데 김부자 체제 유지 때문에 사실 주민들은 너무 고통스럽게 살고 있는 거거든요. 그래서 그런 거를 싫어하는 사람들은 그 정권으로부터 낮은 레벨에 있고 항상 감시당하는 그런 가족들도 되게 많은데 그런 주민들은 나쁘게 생각하기 때문에 그냥 바보 같다 그런 거에 좀 마음이 시원해할 수도 있고 또는 김정은에게 충성하는 사람들은 오히려 자신의 그런 충성심이 더 이렇게 작용할 수도 있고 연민을 느낄 수도 있고 인간적인 어떤 다른 생각을 할 수도 있는데 사람마다 느끼는 건 다 다를 거라고 생각해요.
She thinks that it depends on the viewers. So some who are very loyal to Kim Jong-un or their regime might sympathize with him the way maybe some of us may have, like we did today or something. But those who are anti-North Korea for starting their people to strengthen the regime, like what she said, or like herself may think that May won't never be able to sympathize with him. So it depends upon the person who's watching the film.
Quickly, my second question. This is a little bit away from, I guess, Kim Jong-un. This movie has a lot of very American. It's got, and also like it objectifies women a bit too. I realize, there's other elements of comedy that they threw in there, and I just didn't really appreciate it. But I don't know if you had the same sort of reaction to that or not.
사실 실제하고는 많이 다른데 저는 영화의 어떤 퀄리티나 영화의 한 장면에 너무 많은 것을 이렇게 부과하면서 그걸 생각하지 않고 그냥 어떤 그 속에 숨어있는 그냥 전체적인 큰 거를 더 중요하게 생각하기 때문에 이렇게 작은 거에 대해서는 사실 생각을 안 했는데 질문하시니까 북한에서 정말로 외국인들이 가면 북한 정권이 오히려 그 외국인을 자기네 편으로 매수하기 위해서 여성들을 이렇게 성적으로 붙여주고 성관계를 가지게 하고 아이를 임신하게 하고 또 나중에 그 아이가 태어나면 정말 그 사람을 나중에 북한의 어떤 또 간첩처럼 고용해서 쓸 수도 있고 어떤 자녀들을 인질로 삼아서 그런 나쁜 행위를 하게끔 하는 헬퍼로서 쓰기 때문에 그런 생각을 오히려 더 그런 생각을 오히려 더 하게 됐어요.
The way how woman was portrayed in the film is not actually true. It's not real. It's not what's happening in North Korea. But the way how they take advantage of women in North Korea is that when foreigners come to North Korea, they try to win their heart and make them marry a North Korean woman. And when they have a child, they have them as a hostage to hire them as a North Korean spy. Is what's going on. So she did not really pay attention to the little details, the way how it's been portrayed, like in a comedic way, but rather she paid attention to a bigger picture. So how women are being used pretty much in North Korea and how that would affect North Korean regime and so on.
But cinematically speaking, I thought it was really interesting that the CIA Agent Macy, is very true to her job. She's very good at doing her job, whereas the North Korean lady...
Hi. So, this is a question for our North Korean panelists as well. I'll out myself right now as an American in his late 20s. I think that I am the demographic for this movie. I thought it was hilarious. A lot of the jokes hit for me. I was laughing the whole time. But there's a lot of dick jokes, a lot of gay jokes, things like this, that I think there's even a chasm between that sense of humor for me and even some of my South Korean friends didn't really get that. And I feel like the chasm is going to be just huge between people like me and North Koreans seeing this for the first time. So do you think this could be off-putting? The first 30 or 40 minutes with Eminem coming out as gay, a lot of things like a lot of very American cultural cues and references. I wonder if a lot of North Koreans viewing this would be turned off and think this is, will they just turn it off before they even get to North Korea?
I think that's a good point, just while we're waiting for the translation.
두 가지가 있는데요. 한 가지는 저 영화가 번역이 되어서 나간다면 그렇다면 그거에 대해서 저거 게이고 뭐고 이런 걸 아는데 번역이 안 된 영화가 들어가면 잘 모를 것 같아요. 사실 저도 북한에 있을 때 어릴 때인데 한 13살 그때 미국 영화를 본 적이 있어요. 그때는 비디오 테이프로밖에 저는 그때는 람보를 봤었어요. 근데 외국 문화를 북한의 젊은 사람들은 너무 좋아해요. 그것을 하나의 유행처럼 생각해요. 우리가 만약에 뭐 좋은 물건이 있으면 나 좋은 물건 쓰는 걸 막 자랑하듯이 북한의 젊은이들은 해외에서 이런 들어오는 영화를 보는 것을 되게 매우 그런 것처럼 이렇게 동일시하는데 저런 영화가 들어가면 만약에 번역이 돼서 이제 들어간다라고 했을 때 사실 북한에서는 게이나 이런 문화가 없어요. 예, 그리고 북한에서는 공개적인 장소에서 이렇게 그 스킨십을 잘 안 해요. 이렇게 진하게 뭐 키스를 한다거나 그런 게 없기 때문에 그 사회 자체가 그런 사회이기 때문에 사실 받아들일 수는 없지만 인간으로서 느끼는 감정들은 인간이라면 누가 다 같잖아요. 그렇기 때문에 그냥 한 번도 뭐 본인들이 어떻게 밖에서 해보지 못한 것들 이런 것도 있고 하기 때문에 그냥 인간적으로 느낄 것 같아요. 그런 부분에 있어서는. 근데 어떤 동성애나 이런 거에 대해서는 잘 모르겠어요. 예, 아마 잘 상상 못할 거예요. 북한 사람들은.
So she thinks that once the movie is translated and then sent to North Korea, then they might understand better and understand American jokes and everything. But given that North Korea, there's no PDA and there's no gay culture, it might be, without translation, it might be tougher for them to pretty much understand just by the film itself. And then Oh yeah. Since we're all humans, as long as it's translated and they understand, that they might not be able to fully understand and get all the jokes, but they might feel it the way how they see it and read the lines in Korean.
And just quickly, I know before the discussion began, the organizer of this whole screening and the discussion, Philip, over there, he put to me this conspiracy theory about why the film's not being released in Korea. I believe there are several reasons for this. First, Sony Korea shut down yesterday. We don't have Sony, the Korean branch of Sony Pictures in Korea as of yesterday, 31st of December. So,
how big was it?
18 people.
Wow.
Why? Because Korean films are doing too well in Korea, and business-wise, it didn't really. They felt that they could run the branch from their Beijing and Tokyo setups. So we have the logistics side of that, and also American comedies don't really do very well. They haven't really done very well in Korea. I think comedies are the comedy genre is the most difficult genre to translate into different cultures. Also, the added thing, although we've had a lot of publicity rising from the whole media interest in this film, the local reaction to the news stories about this film has, on the whole, been very negative, and you know, the film industry is driven by money. Similar to all the other industries, and executives are, I think, just waiting to see, waiting for a time when there will be less strong Korean films. Last year, 2014, was the third year in which Korean films took up more than 50% of the entire domestic market here. Dumb and Dumber 2, when I wrote the piece 2 weeks ago, when it was released in Korea, it took up less than 1% of the local market share. So, you know, American comedies don't do well in Korea, so it's money issue as well as this political conspiracy issue as well.
So this will be the last question, at least, of the official panel. If anyone needs to leave at this time, including panelists or anyone else, thank you for your contribution. There are a few more questions, though, so I will open it up as long as anyone is willing to stay. This is our last question of the official hour-long panel.
저는 오늘 언급되지 않은 다른 각도에서 질문을 드리고 싶은데요. 영화에서 대한민국에 대한 언급이 오직 한 번밖에 나오지 않는데요. 그 오산 미군 기지 관련된 일 관련해서요. 북한의 실상 보도와 정의 실현을 위해서 북한과 남한 이외에 제3국가의 개입이 정말 중요하게 이루어져야 된다고 생각하신가요? 대한민국의 역할은 어때야 된다고 생각하시는지요? I would like to make a question that is completely different from a different angle. In the movie, only South Korea is mentioned once about the Osan the Air Force base, and it doesn't even involve any South Koreans at all in that scene. Is the third country, like other than South Korea and North Korea, is the third country's role very significant in trying to show how North Korea really is, or how to promote justice in North Korea? And what do you think the role of South Korea should be?
Should be in what? What do we think the South Korea's role should be in what?
About promoting what the real life of North Koreans are, and about promoting their justice.
제 생각에는 이 한국 정부가 한국 국가 한 자체만으로 북한의 상황을 컨트롤할 수 있는 상황이 아니기 때문에 북한의 인권 문제 이런 것들을 국제사회에서 함께 협력해서 이번에 이렇게 풀어가는 것처럼 북한의 정권 레짐이나 어떤 변화의 자체를 한반도 안에서 평화적으로 우리나라 정부가 주도적으로 역할을 하면서
기술적으로 중국, 러시아, 일본, 미국 그리고 또 유엔 있는 국제사회에 대한 이런 협력 관계를 잘 끌어나갈 수 있는 리더십이 한국 정부가 좀 필요하다. 그런데 한국 정부는 북한 정부와 친밀하게 인도적으로 친밀할 필요가 있습니다. 그러나 어떤 인권이나 이런 부분들은 국제사회 기준에 맞게 풀어가야 되고 북한의 어떤 급변이나 어떤 북한의 변화를 위해서도 기술적으로 보이지 않게 한국 정부가 풀어가야 될 그런 생각입니다.
He thinks that the third country, especially South Korea's role, is very important in terms of promoting justice in North Korea and North Korean human rights. And he doesn't think that North Korea is the only country that should be responsible for it, but since given that North Korean human rights issue is an international issue and it should be developed to an international issue. So it shouldn't be just for South Korea, but South Korean government should take the leading role in terms of cooperating with other countries such as Russia, China, and Japan to promote justice in North Korea.
Cinematically, portrayals of North Koreans were banned. Non-villainous portrayals of North Koreans were banned until the late 1990s. So, as far as promoting or portraying North Korea is concerned, I think South Korea is still trying, or is still in the process of trying to portray North Koreans in a human light. So I think the more the better, really. Why not involve third parties? What's so wrong? We don't have the monopoly on North Koreans or North Korean issues. We've only had as far as my memory serves, it was only in 1998 that the censorship laws got loosened up. So we've only had, we've had less than 20 years of portraying North Koreans cinematically. We're talking about South Korea. So I don't think we have this monopoly of portraying North Koreans. And I don't think we're doing a very good job of it. We as in South Koreans are doing a very fair job of it yet. So I think film like this, whether it's a good film or not, that depends upon the person who views it. I think we need to have films like
kind of sums up my thinking as well. If anything, I think South Korea, with all of its practical concerns, deserves a certain exemption from having to deal with North Korea head-on, given the fact that it's so close and the issue is so sensitive, and South Korea itself is so divided on the issue of North Korea that almost affords them a certain exemption that a country like the United States or Hollywood can take on with more grasp than South Korea might be expected to. I just wanted to, there's just three things about this movie that I think are very important in one sentence each. I think the fact that it got made, as we said before, the fact that it even got made in a competitive Hollywood environment and that it's directed at a mass US audience, the fact that Hollywood thought the absurdity of the Kim Jong-un regime would be a topic that amuses a mass market in the US is big. The fact that it portrays the interview of Kim Jong-un live, very blithely, as if it's a normal thing, that will get some heads scratching in North Korea. They will say, of course that can't happen. Wait, why couldn't that happen? Yeah, and finally, all the stuff about disgusting humor, the dick jokes and the women jokes and things like that. Again, the fact that that was targeted at a mainstream movie-going audience, that will get people scratching their heads as well. How can they so casually put all of this stuff into a movie, a bad movie if you will, and think that a lot of people are going to come see that? That is an issue of free expression at the end of the day. So I think when the movie does make it into North Korea, which it will, a lot of people will be, whether they realize it or not, explicitly or not, they're going to be asking themselves questions like that.